throw out the question in a way that makes them think, well, this is what our kids like to do. Our kids like to go to the book and say exactly what the author said. That's why we're getting burned on New Jersey Ask. Because New Jersey Ask asks a question, and it's asking them to think about what the author said and now tell me how you took that in. So we have to have our parents help us in terms of at home. When you're at the dinner table or when you're in the car or when you're walking down the street or you're on the bus, whatever, have a conversation. What do you think about that? Why do you think that happened? And really, it doesn't matter if the answer is right or wrong, because what the child should be able to do is defend why they thought that. Okay, why did you say that? And they should be able to give you more than just because or Why did you say what you said? Help me understand, why did you say that? Help the parents. That's what you got to get your parents to in talking to their kids. Have them explain. Have them explain to you why they're saying what they're saying. One-word answers are not enough. All right? So help them to critically think. If they're watching a television program and something happened, or if they're watching a movie, why do you think that happened? How do you think that applies to us out here in everyday life? How do you think? Get them to talking beyond the one word. And that's where we got to help our parents teach their kids to be critical thinkers, because that's where we're getting killed on these standardized tests. Because the standardized tests, they're written with the expectation that we're dealing with kids who know how to critically think. And the fact of the matter is, our kids have not been taught how to critically think. That can be said both ways, at school and at home. All right? They need to be taught how to take information from different sources, take it in, and then bring back out their own thoughts. Well, you know what? I know this one says this one says this one says this. Based on all that information and based on my experience, this is how I feel about it. That's where we got to get it. And the little, and I'm not talking just 8th graders. I'm talking kindergarten on up. Because the little ones, generally, they can go there with you. Usually the little kids, you can't shut them up. But if you can get them as they go along the line to be able to think critically, to give back answers, that's exactly where you want them to go. This is going back to the discipline and self-discipline. This is going back to that actions and behavior we talked about. Again, always think in terms of that exercise I gave you with that arm and how many of you went to your cheek instead of your chin when I said go to your cheek. Because even though my hand went to chin, because I love doing that exercise, because I sit there and I watch around the room as people go. Right? That's the same thing. Help your parents, again, understand that what happens in that home, the kids see that, and they will do that. So they have to, this is going back to that 25 to life thing. You have to understand, and I know when I was teaching 8th grade, my average 8th grade kid parent was 28. So that you do the math, you figure average age parent 28, 8th grader is about 12, 13. They had that child at about 15, 16. Okay? Not judging one way or the other, but understand that's what you're dealing with. But help them understand why they have to discipline themselves. All right, look, you've had this child now. You're that child's first teacher. You're that child's role model. What you do is what they do. What you say is what they say. How you act is how they will act. Because one of the famous lines that parents come into my office is, well, they don't do that at home. They tell a tale. Yes, they do. Because a child is not going to turn on and turn off that quickly. They're not going to put on one act here and then put on another act here. We don't work that way. Unless they're one heck of a good Academy Award-winning actor. I had other parents with the famous line, I just don't know what to do with them. That's your child. 4 years old. I do know what to do with them. And they don't like to hear my remedy because I know what the remedy was for James and Jane for me. And it worked wonderfully. I have my classes laughing all the time. I say, we have all this ADD, DDD, all these different letters, but really the main letters that worked for me and my sister was BELT. That's the letters that worked for me and my sister was BELT. And we didn't want that. From kindergarten through 12th grade, and they would have done it with my college professors if they could have. They made the same speech every year at back to school. Now, I can hear my mother to this day. You have our permission that when Mark gets out of line, You do what you need to do. Then you give us a call, and when he gets home, we're going to do what we need to do. Now, Mark was not stupid, not even at an early age. I was not taking 2 tail whippings. I was not going to get my tail whipped in school and then go home and get it whipped again. So they never had any trouble out of me. I'm still in touch with my 2nd grade teacher right now. She just turned 72 last Saturday. Miss Royster, wonderful woman. When I was in school, each teacher had their thing of discipline. Miss Royster's, well, she'll put you in the coat closet. Okay, you messed up in her class, put you in the coat closet, close the door. All right? Mr. Zurich was twist your ear. He would walk down the aisle. If you got out of line, he'd twist your ear. Miss Walden was pop your hands with the ruler. Put your hands out, she'd take the ruler. Okay? Each teacher had their own method of discipline. And at that time, if they called home, like I said, parents did what they needed to do. We don't have that now, but that's where they need to get. And they need to discipline themselves. And you need to help them as you're making the presentation. Use examples. Use examples like I'm doing now. Use examples that you know of, all right? Help them understand why they wouldn't want to do what they do. Because especially in front of their children, all right? You want to do your thing, just don't do it in front of your child. Because your child will want to do their thing just well, and then you have no recourse. Well, you do that, and a kid will tell on you. That's what you do. Empower the children to handle it. Now, this is a biggie, too. Because what we get a lot of is parents come in trying to defend some of the wrongest behavior. Child be as wrong as 2 left shoes. And the parent will come in defending that. One of the wonderful things that we really got into the habit of at School 10, even with the prior administration, was we would have enough backup information that by the time the parent got there and tried to do that, we would question the child in such a way that by the time we got done, the parent turned on the child. What? You got me coming in here looking like a fool? All this happened, all this. Did teacher do this? Yes. Did she give you that? Yes. Did you do this? No. Did you do that? No. By the time we get finished with the kid and the parent turned on the child. We can't always, as much as parents, and that's your babies, it is. But you have to, in some instances, let kids get out their own jams. Let them handle their own situation. Don't always, and let your parents know this. They're crippling their child by always jumping in. Every time that child does something wrong, they come in there and cover for them, they're crippling them. Because at that point, the child grows up into that habit, and they go out into the street with that, and now they come up against a police officer. Police officer don't care. Now they come up across that gang member. Gang member don't care. But the kid has been coddled for so long, have been pitied. Back to that, the disservice is in the pitying, not the pushing. The kid has been coddled and covered for so long. They don't know how to handle their own situation. I had a crazy situation. A young man, and it's fresh, it's new. It's a young man that for the last 2 or 3 years we've been telling him about do not play around on the bus. Every day he gets on the bus, he's taunting the driver. He's this and that. He's up and down running. And this is the little yellow school bus. The bus is not that big. Well, as it would, 2 days ago, and I was on the phone with Dr. Fulmore, as a matter of fact. I get this call that such and such student has now caused the bus to have an accident. He went on the bus taunting the driver. The driver's foot hit the gas. It goes into a car. Car goes into another vehicle. Thank God no kids were in between because it did do damage to the car and other vehicle. But now this child is facing some major league issues. Because all the way up the line, mom was right there trying to cover his tracks. Now it's turned into something major. So help your parents understand why they don't want to do that. And I'm not saying all the time. I'm just saying there are times when you need to let the kids kind of figure out and, empower them. Show them how. Look, this is how life works. All right? This one here is just, and again, depending on the sections, where you're dealing, if they can do that, great. Matter of fact, and with the technology that we have today, really with digital cameras and all that, it's kind of easy to do. And again, I use my experiences. My mother has pictures of us from everything that we did from birth till probably now. She has the old photo albums of us at Palisades Park, riding on the rides at Great Adventure, at wherever we went, Sterling Forest, Gingerbread Castle, wherever we were going as kids. And they're in the family albums. I did the same thing. I was married for 20 years, so everything that happened during that 20-year period of time was captured with my family. I had the same thing. Some of the books are between the two houses now, but the kids can go back. And during our time, it was videos. We had the video camera, just like the gentleman has here that he's doing right now. We video trips, so forth and so on. So if you can encourage your families, again, it could be an activity for the family or the mother and the child to do together. You know what, hon, let's create a collage. It could be with their schoolwork. One of the things kids absolutely love is when they take their work and hang it on the refrigerator. When the kids see their work hanging on the refrigerator, again, that makes them feel like, this is valuable. I used to take my kids' work, if it was scribble when they were little, and hang it up there. Right now, if you walk into my office, I have like water paintings my daughters did when they were like 1 and 2. And I took them and framed them. And they're hanging in my office to this day. And I said the oldest one is 20, the youngest one is 15. And if you walk into my office, you'll see these watercolors. I mean, for that matter, I could take them to a museum and you think this big famous artist did. But they're like watercolors that's framed and matted and everything. They did those when they were 1 or 2. But that made them feel like they was. Encourage your parents to do things like that. Encourage your parents to make that kid's work feel special. I don't care. It could be the ugliest thing going. They may not even know what it is. Honey, what is that? Oh, it's a turtle. Oh, that's a pretty turtle. That's a beauty. Now, you had no idea in your mind that was a turtle. You're looking like, oh boy, that's some turtle there. But you don't downgrade the kid. Oh, that's an ugly turtle. No. Encourage your parents to work with those students. Oh, that's beautiful. That's back to the affirmation, back to the words again. Okay? The parental role and responsibility in children's education. We need our parents are very quick, and I guess maybe that's part of human nature as well. They're very quick to be negative. They'll pick out that kid could be good all day long, and they'll pick out the one negative thing they did. And I always say it's kind of like catch the child doing something right. Talk to your parents about catching their kids doing something right. Right, when you give this presentation, like I said, feel free to use it. You use the same slides, whatever. When you talk to them, catch your child doing something right and let them know about it. That's what I've been doing over at School 10 in the morning announcements. Every time a kid does something right, bring it to my attention, we blow it up on the morning announcement. I had a child came in, she wrote a poem. Now, we read the poem on the morning announcements a few weeks ago. But unbeknownst to me, she sent it off to one of these publishing companies that do publishing books, like little compilations and poetry books. Sure enough, the company accepted her work. So they sent her a letter back saying, dear such, 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 we loved your poem, such, 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 and we'd like to publish it in our anthology that's coming up in 2010, whatever. The kid was so happy she didn't know what to do. She ran down to my office. Can I see Mr. Medley? Can I see Mr. Medley? And I was kind of like, okay, what is it? Come on in. So she showed me the letter, and it made my day because I had just left the principal's meeting, which was like, me and meetings just don't get along. But I just left the principal's meeting. I got back to the building. I said, that made my day to see that letter, that work that you just saw. Next morning, I shouted her name out and her teacher out. 6th grade student, 6th grade teacher, Miss such and such, student, congratulations, she's been accepted. That day, the week prior, I went down to a special ed class and played one of the kids in 09 Madden football, PlayStation. The kid beat me 21-3. Now, I won't have it again, but he beat me 21-3. So the next morning, I get on the loudspeaker, and I blow the kid up, saying, kid such and such such, we played PlayStation yesterday, and he beat my Steelers 21-3. Now I got every kid in my building wanting to play me a PlayStation, and this kid is like glowing because he heard his name over the loudspeaker for something that wasn't necessarily school-related, but again, it was something positive. Wow, I beat the principal in PlayStation. Now what I did, going back to the teachable moment thing, now I say, you know what, such and such, that same focus and concentration that you had in that PlayStation game is the same focus and concentration I want on your language arts. Same focus and concentration I want on your math assignment. Because I saw that you can focus. It's just a matter of you focus on what you want to focus on. And what you don't, you don't. So therefore, that same focus that you had with that PlayStation Madden 09, and you were the Cardinals and I was the Steelers, that same focus you need to have in your schoolwork. It's all about positive affirmation. And it works with grown-ups as well. Because I'm not only doing that at 10 with the students, I'm doing that with the teachers. If the staff does something that's positive, we let everybody know. All right? Be generous and obvious proof of positive behavior. I told you about the signing of homework. What we're doing now, and I'm doing the same thing at 10, I want my parents signing homework. Encourage your parents to review and to help with. And again, I understand many of our parents may have dropped out themselves. Many of our parents only have gone so far in their educational journey. They may not know how to help their children with their homework, even if they want to. And I'm okay with that. The shame is not in not knowing how to help them. The shame is not in asking somebody for help. And if our schools are in these welcoming environments that Mr. McDowell was talking about that we're trying to set up, the parent ought to feel comfortable enough to go in and say, you know what, I want to help my child with this, but I just don't know how to do it. Can somebody here help me? Now, between all these SES providers we have, all these after-school programs we have, all these teachers that can be tutors, somebody ought to be able to help that parent help that child. Now, that's the way it ought to work. I'm not saying it is working, but that's the way it ought to work. Because the shame is not in not knowing how. The shame is not asking for help, particularly in 2009 when we have so much technology. It could not be a better time to be a student than it is right now. Because all you have to do is go to the internet, keyword any subject, and there's something out there about it. All right? So the shame is not in not knowing. The shame is in not asking. All right? So make sure the parents are taking an active role, making sure their homework is done. My teacher's over there complaining and whining, we don't have enough paper to make copies. I said, I don't want you making copies. I want the kids to write in their notebooks. Because you're constantly telling me the kids can't write. Make them write. You're telling me they have no manual dexterity. Write. Back to the technology. There's nothing wrong with a teacher and a parent having each other's email. Now, the teacher has no excuse because it's not their personal email. It's not like their Yahoo account or their Gmail account or their AOL account. Every teacher, for the most part in the district, is supposed to have a district email. There's nothing wrong with a parent saying, may I have your email? And there's nothing wrong with a parent going to the teacher saying, this is my email. Little Johnny, get out of line, send me a quick email. I'll get it. Okay? Back to that whole report that we talked about earlier. You don't want to do it electronically? You know what? Just send me a note home in the notebook. Because again, what I encouraged my teachers to do was work those notebooks. Send the messages home in the notebook. Under the homework, little Johnny had a great day today. Little Susie, she needs a little bit of work. She needs a little more help in this. Write that in the notebook. There should be communication between the teacher and the parent. And encourage your parents to demand that. That's what we're here for. There's no reason why there couldn't be dialogue, whether it's writing, whether it's email, whether it's text messaging, because now folks are texting each other. You know, they text each other what little Johnny is doing or not doing, all right? Feel free to have them do that. Treat your child justly and fairly. We talked a little bit about that, all right? The parental role and responsibility, again, help your parents, those of the parents that you have that are working, let them know that their children, tell them to let their jobs know, look, I am here for you 100%, but if something is going on with my child, I will need to go to that school. And that needs to be made, the parent needs to make that clear on their job. If something's truly serious, and I'm talking about every 2 minutes I'm going to be running back and forth to school, but if something truly is serious going on with my child, I'm going to that school. They can do that, and usually employers understand that if you're a good employee. Now, if you're a slacker and they think you're using that for an excuse, that's a different ballgame. But if you're a good employee that you're always there and they know, oh, I got a call from the nurse, I got to go. The nurse just called me, my kid got his eye knocked out, I got to go. All right? Look. Learning styles. All of us learn differently, and all of us have a combination of all of it. Right now, you're learning a combination, at least two. You're learning visually because this is in front of you, and you're learning auditorily because I'm talking to you. If the third way, if I had you do something, write, or do an exercise, would be kinesthetic. That's touchy-feely. Kids learn in different ways. Some kids are visuals like I am. If I see it, I can follow you and do it again. If I hear it, I may. And then, of course, again, if I'm doing it hands-on, generally I'll get it as well. Because all of us have a combination, but one of them is usually dominant. All right? If you learn, or if you have your parents try to figure out what their kids' learning style is. And once they do that, help them, talk to them in that language. And I used to work for AT&T prior to coming into education. And one of the bosses that I had, I tell you what, everybody need to stand up again and take a stretch break, because I know I see a lot of yawning and kind of, everybody stand up and stretch. Stand up and just kind of stretch it out a little bit. I know, I tell you, I hate meetings, I know. I get the same way, so just kind of stand up and stretch and kind of like shake it out, and, you know, if you need a little bit of water or something, you know, because I trust me, I've sat in more meetings than some of you are old. No, it's no exercise. This time, I'll just give me a chance to stretch it out so that, you know, that you can stay with me for the next few minutes till we're done. Okay? Good. All right. Because I know long that I know Mr. McDowell. Anybody was before Mr. McDowell? Or he was first? Okay. For presentations today. He was it? No, nobody before him? Okay. So you all had a long day, and I'm making it longer. So, okay, take a seat. All right. So, if you learn your child, have the parent understand the child's learning style so that they can talk in that language. As I was saying, I used to work for AT&T, and I had a boss. Her style was auditory. I was visual. So she loved to leave voicemail messages. I loved to leave email messages. We never communicated. Because she would say, "Did you get my voicemail?" And I would say, "No." And I would say, "Did you get my email?" And she would say, "No." So we constantly had this battle going on because I was a visual and she was an auditory. So the quicker your parents figure out their child's learning style, the better they'll be able to help them.